Man, I love walking in the woods with a rifle. I've loved it my whole life. It was in the desert when I was a kid. I just go out all day long with a rifle. And now it's the woods. It's my favorite place. I always loved the woods, right? I always loved creeks. People love water. But I love creeks. You know, people love like lakes, oceans, rivers. I love creeks because to me a creek is wild. You see creeks in the mountains, wild creatures, and man, I love it. There's nowhere else I want to be. You know, I read an article. I read these articles in the morning, and they inspire me to talk. And I think great things are coming to the country. I do. You know, I get really down sometimes, even though I'm so thankful that God is in my life and I'm blessed with such an incredible family and I live in a beautiful place. But I think great things are coming, and that's because God works all things for His good. You know, if you look politically, it's a nightmare. Whoever agrees with or doesn't agree with or who supports who, everything about politics is so nasty right now. I mean, I don't even know. Is there a good story anywhere? I don't even know. But I wanted to share my view without trying to insult anybody. You know, when the 2016 elections happened, President Trump wasn't my first choice, but I believe now that God put him there. I believe that his abrupt way that people look at and think is rude or childish or indignant, I believe it's the only way that we are going to find the truth. And that's what we're doing, is we're finding the truth. I think too many people are concerned with his appearance, and too many people are looking at parties than to see truth revealed. You know, a lot of people who've never been involved in politics, I ran for office once, and it's a very different world than you think. You know, you open your life up to everything, and people can lie about you and ridicule you. I was going broke at the time. We lost everything in the recession, and I was running for a county sheriff position, but I learned a lot about it. But I can tell you this, billionaires don't need to run for president to accomplish anything. That's a fact. When you're a billionaire, you've got a lot of power. Now, I guess someone could say, I want to be president just because I want that too. But I honestly don't believe that that's what President Trump did. You know, I've told people before personally, I met him once as a young patrolman, and he approached me and was totally kind. He was around a lot of other celebrities, and most celebrities, they don't care. He did. He was kind. He offered me a little candy, a Tic Tac or something. Nice guy. And now he's president, and I honestly believe, I'm convinced at this point, that he is fighting this horrendous battle for the nation. I believe it. He is showing us the nasty things that are going on here. If you look at, look at this newest thing with the Ukraine, with former Vice President Joe Biden and his son, where they're talking about millions of dollars, maybe $1 billion deal with China, and millions of dollars paid to Joe Biden's son. He was vice president at the time, when he has no real experience. He was just kind of there because he was an influential fella, but he's only influential because his father was vice president. And to utilize the vice president's position to make money for your family, it might have been going on for a long time, but anybody really pay attention to it? This is a big deal because now, you know, I just saw something, I don't know if it's true or not, but now there's 4 people that have family members in the gas business in Ukraine. I don't remember who they all are. I think it was maybe Nancy Pelosi, oh, doggone it. I drew a blank now. Anyway, it's out there that at least 3 other people have family members making a lot of money in the Ukraine in the gas business. But, you know, the thing I want you to think about is that, have you ever, as an adult, paid attention to the fact that the United States just gives millions and billions of dollars to other countries? Have you ever thought about that and thought, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Well, that's what this is revealing. This is well beyond the Bidens being involved and these other 3 families, which they may not be doing anything inappropriate, or maybe they are. But do you know now, what this is doing is it's opening the door to people to see that we have a government that now has our country $20 trillion in debt, isn't ever talking about solving that issue. They're all wealthy. Now we know how. Could it be true that it's all corruption? That we give so much money to other countries Because these people in government have family and friends and interests in business that then get multi-million-dollar, $100 million contracts. Is it true that we could give $1 billion to a country only to find out that a bunch of people in the government have children and friends and businesses over there that are taking that money? That's what this is exposing. This is a big deal. At the same time that's being exposed, the president is ungodly to the press. But everybody has to recognize that we've been manipulated by the press for a long, long time. And I think that if somebody was in there as president and was being polite about it, people wouldn't pay attention. But now as people talk about the way the president is and his tendencies and being rude or seemingly childish, but everybody's talking about it and now it's exposed. And that's a big deal because you see, if the country stops being manipulated, that's a big deal. And if we find out that we're giving billions of dollars, maybe $1 trillion to other countries, only to find out that people in the government's children and friends and they have interest in companies that are raking in money, well, we can stop that. The other thing I think is interesting is the attack on the Second Amendment is like nothing I've ever seen at this point. Laws are trying to pass like if you commit a hate crime, like use a racial slur or something, you could lose your guns. A misdemeanor crime of domestic violence has been out there forever because we think of the worst case scenario, not all the light scenarios that people probably live through, vast majority of people live through in their life, that you could lose your guns forever. Red flag laws. Now I saw where somebody said that the president said that they were all right, but I haven't found that. If it's true, I disagree with them. They're not. Because now, how is it interesting that if you own a gun and you do something that somebody sees as threatening, because let's face it now, did you see the story of the 84-year-old Korean War veteran who was also a former policeman, that's a crossing guard and is a great guy, and he was disappointed because the school policeman was going to get coffee and leaving the school vulnerable, and the guy said, you know, that could lead to a school shooting. So then a waitress overheard that, and then they took the 84-year-old guy's guns. That's red flag laws. He didn't even know it. He doesn't have justification. Taking guns from people is a big deal, and I see this giant influx. Look at people talking about excise taxes and stopping the transportation of guns and banning guns, and I think that it's so crazy right now because this president, regardless of what you think overall, this president is exposing the nightmare that was coming if Hillary Clinton would have gotten into office. Listen, I've also talked about my one experience when we protected the Clintons several times, but Hillary was only there once. And I totally understand. When I saw what happened in Benghazi and she was in charge, I know why. And so does anybody that's ever protected her. They know she has disdain and contempt for law enforcement and military, and that's a fact. That is a fact. Read the books of people that are talking about it. If you know anybody that ever was in a protection detail, you'll find out the truth. But now God is working all these things for good, and we get disappointed, but you know what? I think there's an uprising coming. I really do. And I don't think it's going to have to be gunplay and bullets flying and stuff like that, because there's too many good Americans that really will stand up and do what's right. All you've got to do is overwhelm City Hall, overwhelm county commission meetings, overwhelm with emails, get groups, sit down in your house with 3 or 4 friends, invite more friends, make bigger groups, get into a bigger place. That's community. That's how the country comes together. Small grass fire roots is how things happen. That's how President Obama was elected. Small grass fire things that got a guy elected that I think was the most corrupt, illicit guy in the White House. That's my belief. I don't care if you believed in him or not. That's the way I see it. I mean, that guy doubled the national debt in 8 years. All other presidents combined, that guy doubled it in 8 years. And we're not talking about it. You're responsible for it. You and your children. All of us regular people, as the elitists, are ripping off the country, which means they're ripping us off. Well, that should upset you. It should upset you regardless of what aisle you're on. The fact that things like that can happen, unethical, immoral behavior, and they can claim stupidity. Oh, I didn't know or I didn't think. Listen, we all know it. Things are happening that would put you or I in prison, and nothing's happening to them. There's an uprising coming, and all it is Americans that love this country and are honorable and moral, and we can get the country back. Sorry I don't have my cup of coffee this morning. Just a thing of water. I was out for my walk. Think about everything I have to say. God loves you.